Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to edition 24 of Food Safety Fridays. My name's Simon Timpley from the International Food Safety and Quality Network. Today, I'm delighted to say our guest speaker is Tony Connor, Chief Technical Advisor at the IFSQN. Now, some of you who may frequent the IFSQN discussion forums will probably know Tony because he spends a lot of time on there answering questions for members who are looking for advice on implementing and making GFSI certification systems more effective. So Tony helps out a lot on there. So he's got lots of practical ideas, and his presentation today is effective complaint management. Obviously, in a food safety management system, you have to have a complaint system, and it has to be effective. And it does give an indication of the health of the food safety management system. So Tony's presentation today will be looking at how we capture, log, and analyse complaint data in order to identify areas for improvement. And also, it'll give some tips on what you actually can do in your factory, some practical ideas on preventing complaints in the first place. So it's a very good presentation. I'm sure you'll all enjoy it. So I'd just like to say, as I do every week, the logos beside me, Trace Analytics, IFS, FSSC, and Safe Food 360, these kind of organisations sponsor the Food Safety Fridays programme, and they help to bring it free of charge to you every week. So you get free training every week and a free certificate of attendance. And obviously, the other important people are the speakers, one of which today is Tony Connor. So, hi, Tony. How are you doing?
Hello there, Simon. How are you?
It's great to have you today. Where are you calling from today?
I'm on Samui at the moment. Koh Samui in Thailand. Yeah.
Right. Koh Samui in Thailand. So you're in a lovely tropical paradise, and I'm in drizzly Manchester. But together, we're getting together today to bring you all over the world a great presentation. So while you get your presentation ready, Tony, I'll just talk to the audience about next week's webinar. Okay.
Sure.
Be back shortly.
See you in a minute.
Okay. Next week we have hi Ray. Yeah, hi Mr. Simon. It's good to see you again. You still great. Oh, thanks, Ray. That's fantastic. It really boosts my confidence seeing these comments coming at the side, to be honest with you. It's better than the abuse I used to get when things were going wrong all the time. But hey ho. Anyway, next week we've got Steve Gruler coming back, and Steve's going to be talking about predictive risk metrics. I'll just read it out. This session will introduce a new predictive set of metrics to predict increasing food safety and brand risks. This metric allows for preventive risk mitigation and management. These metrics are based on comprehensive risk identification, enabling companies to predict, manage, and mitigate brand risk from multiple newly recognized categories. To be honest, I have no idea about the detail of that, but I'm sure it'll be great because Steve's presented a couple of times before at Food Safety Fridays. So please, I'll be adding that to the sidebar so you'll be able to register directly from the sidebar today. I'll be doing that in a couple of minutes. Okay, without further ado, I'll introduce Tony, who's going to do his presentation. There will be polls and asking you to join in with the chat throughout the presentation, so I hope you'll take part in that, and I'll be back for the Q&A after Tony's presentation. So we'll head over to Tony now. Okay, Tony, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Hi there, and welcome to this webinar on complaint management and how to improve your complaint performance. I'll just start off with a bit about myself first. I have an honours degree in molecular biology and biochemistry from Durham University. I have 25 years management experience in the food industry in various processing, production, development, and technical roles. I'm the designer and author of IFSQN Hygiene and HACCP training courses and designer and author of IFSQN Food Safety Management System implementation packages. I've been highly successful in consistently reducing complaint levels, the pinnacle being a Marks and Spencer Award for excellent complaint performance. I'm just going to start with a few quotes. Whilst you can identify faults in your factory, your customers are your 100% inspection service, so respect their feedback. A bit from SQF here. Customer complaints provide an important measure of how well the SQF system is performing. By accurately recording customer complaint types, a supplier can objectively measure changes in their management system and show improvements in a process. Customer complaints may also show trends that have not been identified during processing and normal process control checks. So today we're going to cover importance of complaint management from a GFSI perspective, overview of a complaint management system, complaint trend analysis for performance improvement, and other ways to improve complaint performance. The GFSI guidance document has complaint management requirements, and GFSI benchmark standards do require auditors to take a close look at complaints, complaint levels, and trends in customer complaint levels. Complaint levels are a key performance indicator and a reflection of the effectiveness of the food safety management system. Let's go through some examples of requirements of GFSI benchmark standards. BRC Food, section 3.10, covers complaint handling. The interpretation guideline states the objective of complaint investigation process should be to identify and correct causes of complaints, and one measure of an effective system should be a reduction in the level of complaints as a proportion of production volume. SQF code has section 2.15 on complaint management, requiring methods and responsibility for handling and investigating complaints, trends of customer complaint data to be investigated, corrective action, records of customer complaints and investigations. This is a bit from SQF code auditing guidance. Customer complaints may be the first record that an auditor asks to review when beginning the facility audit. Customer complaints can provide an auditor insight into the performance of the supplier's SQF system and any trend areas that may require greater focus. As part of the FSSC 22000 scheme, ISO 22000 refers to complaints in external communication, B, and customer feedback, including customer complaints. Internal communication, the food safety team is informed of complaints indicating food safety hazards associated with the product, and corrective actions. These actions include reviewing non-conformities, including customer complaints. IFS Food, version 6, section 5.8, has requirements for the management of complaints from authorities and customers requiring assessment, corrective and preventative action, and an analysis. For IFS Food audits, there are compulsory fields to be completed by the auditor. How often complaints are received, number of complaints raised from consumers per million of sold units, number of complaints raised from authorities, number of complaints linked to non-conforming analysis on products. Let's move on to complaint management procedure. So the main components of a complaint management procedure are attitude, process, communication channels, on-pack information, capture and receipt, complaint form, initial response, investigation, corrective action, and response. A bit about the attitude. Complaint handling should be integrated with the core business. There should be a culture. The organization must value complaints and recognize that effective complaint handling will benefit its reputation. The staff who handle complaints must be skilled in their role and have a positive attitude when dealing with complaints. An effective complaint process is user-friendly and understood by all relevant parties, has clear communication channels, has clear procedures, has trained staff to deal with complaints, has a recording system to capture complaints data, provides sufficient details about the complaint. Complaints are responded to in a timely manner. Complaints are investigated. corrective action is taken, and explanations are provided to the complainant. Systems to capture complaints are important. Staff receiving complaints should be trained and aware of what information is required. You should understand the source of your complaints and ensure procedures are in place to receive complaints from all relevant parties by all possible methods. So you should make the complaints process accessible. Complaints should be accepted in a number of ways, including over the phone, by letter, fax, or email. You can provide unpack information about how to complain, something like this. While we always try to get it right, sometimes this is not the case. So if you have any questions or a complaint about a product you have purchased, you can contact us. Then phone, email, post and fax details. So moving on. Complaints should be channeled and communicated to a specific person or department who are trained to deal with complaints. Complaints should be captured in sufficient detail by completing a complaint notification form. Complaints should be logged. It may be important that packaging and other evidence, such as a foreign body, are retrieved from the customer for investigation purposes. You can supply a prepaid addressed envelope to the customer if necessary. This is an example of a complaint investigation or notification form, which should be available to all relevant staff. So there's an initial response to the customer to acknowledge the complaint. We request the packaging or foreign body or anything relevant returned for investigation. Then there is an investigation by all relevant departments. The first part of the form is completed by the person receiving the complaint. It includes relevant details about the complaint and is passed on to the nominated person who carries out complaints investigation. Staff should be trained to identify an unusual number of complaints or a serious complaint and escalate to the nominated person in authority, such as the quality manager. Guidance should be provided on the type of complaints that are serious and may lead to product withdrawal. Senior management should define the criteria for product withdrawal and recall. Withdrawal, for example, when X number of off complaints are received from the same batch of product. Recall, for example, when foreign body choke hazard or glass are confirmed as from the factory when there is risk of further products being affected. So initially, complaints are categorized in order to prioritize complaints that require urgent attention. There will be injury or illness associated consumer complaints and non-injury, non-illness consumer complaints. So categorizing food complaints can include suspected food poisoning, foreign matter in food, allergens not listed in ingredients, misleading or incomplete labeling, spoilage, packaging faults, quality. Just going to have a poll now. What is your most common type of complaint? Suspected food poisoning, foreign matter in food, allergens not listed in ingredients, misleading or incomplete labeling, spoilage, packaging faults, quality, or other.
Okay, Tony. I think this is a type-in rather than a poll one. So
is it? Sorry.
Yeah, if you can type your answers in to that, or maybe you've got something else. If you've got another, just type into the chat. So the question is, what is your most common type of complaint? And up there we've got suspected food poisoning, hopefully not, foreign matter in food, allergens not listed in ingredients, misleading or incomplete labeling, spoilage, packaging faults, quality, or other. And then if it's other, please specify. So please just type that into the chat. Quality, 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 packaging faults, spoilage, a lot of quality packaging faults and some foreign matter as well. But I would say overwhelming quality. I'd say probably about 70% quality and maybe 20% or 60% quality, 30% packaging. Let's go with that.
Right.
And then foreign matter
Okay.
and spoilage and things like that. So is that what you expected to see, Tony?
I might have, I might have expected to see packaging faults, spoilage,
Foreign
as the
bodies,
leading
foreign
ones.
matter, foreign matter. Yeah, so probably
Foreign matter less so. I think it's more spoilage that is, I would guess, is the most common one. Spoilage or quality.
Yeah, so we have got a lot of quality and packaging ones there. What a variety. It seems like anyway that most attendees do have complaints. That's for sure.
Right.
Okay, you can carry
Well,
on.
I don't think they would be here if they didn't, Simon.
True. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to move on.
Mate. Yes.
So a complaint investigation should ask some key questions. How did this get through? Did we have a system to prevent this? Could we have prevented it? Could more be done to prevent a reoccurrence? If you look at investigating metal in product as an example, depending on the nature of the metal foreign body, you might want to check, is the item returned detectable through the equipment on the line used? You may need to check relevant metal detection records to ensure the detector was working at the time in question. You should check if there was any indication of multiple rejections when the product was made. You will want to check engineering records to identify if there's any work liable to generate metal contamination. There should also be knife and blade control records for you to check. Here's an example of a complaint investigation form. Checks include other complaints from the batch in question, raw materials, packaging, CCP checks, other checks throughout the process, including processing, filling, any engineering contribution, storage and distribution, anything from the laboratory. There's an investigation summary, a corrective action, a corrective sign-off, and the completed investigation is signed off by the senior responsible person. Finally, there is a response to the customer. Here's an example of a response to a customer complaint where explanations are provided to the complainant. So, unusual complaints. What is the most unusual complaint you have received? Answers in the chat box, please.
Yeah. So yeah, please type in again in the chat box. I'm sure you've all got an example of something weird and wonderful, especially if you're at the retail end and you're dealing with consumer complaints. Yeah, one or two of you said you can't read the detail of the forms. Well, you won't do, but you'll get the idea from the webinar, and you will get the slides in the follow-up, so you'll be able to see the detail there, but you won't do in this webinar. You won't be able to see all the detail.
Sorry, if I could interrupt, Simon, we can give a sample completed form after the webinar. When, we can provide an example. That's not a problem.
That's a great idea, that. Yeah. Okay. So, well, that's a great offer from Tony. We'll, as well as the presentation, we'll put a sample completed complaint form in there for you. So, what have we got? Broken teeth, tooth fillings, glass in pizza, pot pipe in chips. So somebody was smoking pot pipe and dropped it. Pebbles, glass, gloves in a can of mushrooms, drugs in packaging. Wow. Christmas ornament found in product intact, black specks in powder, condom in a box of pasta, heart medication, mouse, a bullet. This is funny. Sorry, it's not funny actually. The cat didn't like the product. Chemical, metal pole in a pallet, fly, 30 centimeter scoop in dentures, a frog, mold, presence of hair, ant, animal feces. Wow.
Lovely.
I didn't expect this actually. Earthworms, salmonella in marzipan. I don't know if that's strange or not. Wow, that's quite an eclectic mix of foreign bodies there, almost everything. Yeah. So yes, almost everything, yeah, but mostly foreign body, foreign matter, foreign material type ones, or pests as well, and that type of thing. Okay,
yeah. Okay, shall we move on?
Yes, please.
Okie doke. So we're going to move on to complaint trend analysis. I've been involved in many projects to improve product quality and reduce food complaint levels. One of the best tools for indicating where action for improvement needs to be applied is by analysing your complaint data appropriately. First step is to collate all of your complaint data. Your data should be categorised by product type, complaint type, and size. We've already discussed these food complaint categories. You can also have subcategories, for instance, for foreign bodies. We've discussed them already. Glass, wood, metal, plastic, insect, stone, bone, etc. This is an example of a complaint log. It's in Microsoft Excel. The following is recorded: date received, complaint number or reference number, product, size, used by or best before, category of complaint, type of complaint, initial reply sent, target response by, date investigated, reply sent to customer, customer name, address, phone, and comments. To make life easier and to organize the categories and information, I use drop-down lists. I'm going to do a poll here. Which is the worst performer? Product A, 2 complaints in a week. Product B, 10 complaints in a week. Product C, 5 complaints in a week. Or unable to tell.
Okay, yeah, so I've loaded that poll in, another poll. You're very busy today, attendees, lots of interaction. Which is the worst performer? Should be able to see that poll in the sidebar. Product A, 2 complaints in a week. Product B, 10 complaints in a week. Product C, 5 complaints in a week, or unable to tell. So which do you think is the worst performer out of those? So we'll just let that run for 30 seconds. And then I'll read the results out. I mean, it's looking, it's a bit of a, it's not a trick question because it's got the answer at the bottom, unable to tell. Is that the right answer, Tony? Because we've got 76% saying unable to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, so yeah, overwhelmingly, a couple have said the other A and C. 18% have said B, 10 complaints in a week. But 73% unable to tell. So that's how we're ending up there.
Okay.
Okay.
Should we move on?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
But why, just a question there, Tony. Why are we unable to tell?
I'm just going to move on to that.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay. Analyzing complaints by number alone will not give you a real picture of your performance. If you sell 10 times as much product B and 5 times as much product C in a week, then product A is the worst performer. What you need to know is the proportion of complaints you are getting for each product. My preference is to use complaints per million units. Some people will use weight or volume, such as complaints per ton or per 1,000 litres. Here is an example of a weekly complaint summary. It lists the products, type of complaints, units sold, and complaints per million units. This is a weekly complaint graph with CPMU levels. From the peaks, you can see that you need to take a closer look at weeks 1, 3, and 4. So back to the weekly summary. The performance is summarized using a traffic light system to identify the worst performing products as an alert. It may be that you need to analyze more data in order to establish trends. So you analyze your complaint data by product type, complaint type, and size. From this data, you can easily spot the worst performing product lines. The more data you analyze, the better. Weekly complaints can be converted into monthly. Here you can see an issue with blackcurrant 500 ml taste, which has a complaint level of 54 CPMU. The next step is investigation and action. You should analyze the results for the worst performing products, and you should ask yourself a question. Are they all the same size? Are they produced on the same filling machine or production line? Is it the same type of complaint? The answers to these questions will generate your corrective action plans. If products with the highest complaint levels are all the same size, it could be a particular problem with that size of packaging. If it is all the same type of complaint, then why are some product lines worse than others? If product from one particular production line is generating the highest number of complaints per million units, then there must be a reason for this. It needs investigating. You should compare product performance, and if there are significant differences, you should ask the question why. In this example, the main issues relate to generally off-sour, bad taste, seals, and a specific issue with 500-gram honey being too sweet, but not 150 gram. Why was there a specific issue with 500-gram honey being too sweet, but not 150 gram? The investigation into this found that the 500 gram was made on a separate production line, and the mixing time was insufficient, meaning too much honey was in some of the products. The off-sour and bad taste were determined to be due to a change in preference to a milder yogurt. This product was quite acidic, so we actually changed the product culture to a new milder culture, which was less acidic. With regards to seals, you can check sealing heads, sealing performance, packaging specification, sealing head temperatures, etc. But you can't always find a simple solution, so it may be that you should look at trends. Is the performance better or worse than previous months? So, review of complaint history and of identifying complaint trends are useful. For example, when I worked with fresh pasteurized milk, sour complaints were higher in larger size containers. The reason for this was not related to the quality of the product, but the fact they took longer to consume and spent more time in and out of the fridge. Such products would be targeted for improvement. One of the simplest solutions to this might be to actually put less shelf life on larger products compared to smaller products. So moving back to the complaint trend analysis, from a monthly, we can generate an annual summary. Your annual summary can be displayed in a chart by month, such as this, or an annual analysis in one table. So this is an example of an annual complaint analysis. In this example, we can clearly identify areas to address. There's blackcurrant taste and general issues across the products with tamper-evident tab. Okay, time for another poll. What is an acceptable level of complaints? Less than 1 CPMU, less than 10 CPMU, less than 100 CPMU, less than 1000 CPMU, or no complaint is acceptable?
Okay, yeah. So if you can answer that poll, an acceptable level of complaints, less than 1, less than 10, less than 100, less than 1000 CPMU, complaints per million units. And just to clarify, if you don't make millions of products, it may well be in your organization complaints per 1000 units or complaints per 100 units. It's just a measure that divides into your production output or your sales output for that product line. That's right, isn't it, Tony?
You can still calculate complaints per million units, even if you only produce 1 unit.
Right.
Just multiply the number by 1 million. Yeah.
Okay. And then you can, I suppose you can benchmark then, because CPM use, complaints per 1 million units, is used widely. You can benchmark against other within your industry and outside your industry, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just that there's been a bit of discussion in the chat about CPMU. Okay. So let's have a look at the poll then. We've got 2% saying less than 1 CPMU, 26% less than 10 CPMU, 8% saying less than 100, 0% saying less than 1000, and then 62% saying no complaint is acceptable. So that's where we're coming out. The majority is saying no complaint acceptable, and then less than 10 is 30%.
Okay.
So
shall we move on?
Yeah. Are you all right? Your next part's going to explain some more about this, is it?
No, it's just out of interest. I think it will explain, but okay. I think what I will say is the usual requirement in the benchmark standards is to demonstrate an improvement, and I think the most important thing is to establish where you are now, and look to and demonstrate an improvement in performance. So you measure your complaints, identify areas for improvement, and make the improvement. It might be that you've got a product that some people complain a lot about. It might be that people don't bother complaining.
Yeah. And so when you set your objectives for improvement and you're looking at quality specifically and customer complaints, you hear this phrase, don't you, 0 defects, but in reality, let's be realistic, 0 defects is almost impossible. I've yet
to see the factory with that produces 0 defects.
So when we've got the majority saying no complaint is acceptable, that's right, no complaint is acceptable, but realistically, if you're looking for improvement, you're looking for month-on-month, year-on-year improvement.
I think it depends where you are and your products. There's a lot of variables there, and it's a case of you measure where you are and demonstrate an improvement.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll end that poll then. You can carry on there, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you. So a few words of caution. Your analysis needs to take into consideration the comparative value of the products and the market. People are more likely to complain about higher value products. Also consider that some retail customers are much better at reporting complaints from customers than others. This is to the extent I used to get 10 times the complaint levels from one particular retailer compared to another for exactly the same product. Another issue to consider is the chill chain. Some sales outlets have better refrigeration than others, and this can affect complaint levels. In one particular problem I had, I investigated complaints and found 50% of complaints coming from a single store. We went and checked product in store and found 2 issues. The store did not have enough chilled storage capacity to hold a whole delivery, so some products were left at ambient. The chiller where the product was displayed was running at 20 degrees C or 68 Fahrenheit. We informed the retailer and set up a project to store auditing as a result of this investigation. My last tip is that the more data you analyse, the better. In the past, I have analysed several years' worth of data. Why, you might ask? Well, it gives a year-on-year performance, so you can see if things have been improving or deteriorating, and also it shows any effects of seasonality. For example, it is not reasonable to compare complaint levels for off complaints on a fresh product with winter levels. This is why in the Northern Hemisphere, I would compare August complaint performance with the complaint levels for August in the previous year. Here you can see a year-on-year complaint level comparison. There is generally an improvement year-on-year. You can also see summer peaks which are less pronounced as the performance improves. Okay, we're going to move on now, and we're going to move on to other ways to improve your complaint performance. And there's 3 areas I'm going to talk about. 1, communication. 2, GMP improvements, hygiene inspections, foreign body, throat, black bag audits, and some other tools and tips for product quality monitoring, and some bits on how you can improve your complaint performance. So starting with communication. If staff are aware of your complaints and the complaint levels, they can contribute to improvement. So it is important to communicate complaint performance and complaint details to relevant staff. You can do this by team briefings or by staff notice boards. Here is an example of a weekly summary, which has been broken down into production lines for the benefit of communicating performance to staff. A memo or notification of serious complaints should be displayed to make staff aware of the complaint or for use in team briefs. I'm going to do a bit about GMP audits. Thorough good manufacturing practice audits are an effective way of identifying sources of potential complaints. Here is an example of a factory GMP audit. It covers areas including personal hygiene, structure, pest control, environmental hygiene, and inspection of exposed products areas. As they say, a picture paints 1,000 words. I wanted to show a few pictures of good and bad GMP issues. This is a clean and well-maintained area. Packaging in storage should be wrapped to prevent foreign body contamination. How many people allow engineers to use food-grade oil in the factory? So, you've checked the material safety data sheets to ensure it's food grade. So, the food's oil grade, but that nozzle is a choke hazard. Here's an example of a food grade oil with a nozzle which is both coloured and metal detectable. Similarly, how many people use spray nozzles? These spray nozzles come off as well. So I'll move on to more examples of GMP issues. Tank outlets should have an end cap. Chemicals should not be stored in food containers. This sort of thing leads to product taint, or worse. Poor waste control attracts pests, and I'm sure you know they present both physical and microbiological hazards. What's wrong here? Besides the bag being open, it has been torn, possibly contaminating the product with the plastic packaging. Control of stationery can be an issue. Staples and wooden pencils are a no-no. I found these magnets in one factory. This is more like what I'd like to see a notice board look like. Loose nuts and bolts are a potential food safety hazard, as well as a complaint. And engineering temporary storage can sometimes be a problem. So, what's wrong here? I think we're asking you to type in the chat box for this one.
Yeah, please do type in what's wrong there. They look great to me there. They look nice green brushes, nice and clean. Yeah, everything looks great to me. Some of the attendees have been typing in about the presentation. Yeah, everybody will get a copy of the presentation. And as Tony said before, he's going to give also a template of the complaint form that's already filled in. Somebody's now asking Tony, can they have a copy of one of the GMP audit templates? I don't know if that's too much. Oh, you're
okay.
going to, right. So we will give Tony will kindly give a GMP.
I think if some people are having difficulty seeing some of the slides, I'll certainly provide a PDF with the ones that are more are much clearer if that need be. But yeah, they can have it. Yeah.
Well, that's what we do after we issue the PDF of the PowerPoint.
Fine. Okay. Yeah. Hopefully that'll be a lot clearer then.
Okay, bucket not labelled. Open bucket, not hanging brooms, touching the floor. Different brushes for different tasks, not color coded. Cleaning tool stored on the floor, not in designated labelled area. Hygiene system failure. Not stored properly, placed on the floor. Bristles, source of foreign matter. Food grade bucket sitting on the floor.
Yeah.
Various things on that theme should be hung up first and foremost, I think. Yeah. So that's what's come through, Tony. If you want to carry on.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So we've got that's a product container. And it's an open product container, not only that, and it's on the floor. So yeah, that's identified by a few members there. Clean equipment stored on the floor. And also, this cleaning equipment is in poor condition. Those bristles are a foreign body hazard. This is how I like to see cleaning equipment stored. As another example of an area where ingredients are wrapped and the area is maintained in a good condition. Okay, I wanted to talk about improving complaint performance through product quality monitoring and improvement. And there's a few tools that we can use to do that. There's AKQ, there's predictive shelf life tests, and MTA. We'll talk about AKQ first. AKQ, or accelerated keeping quality. This technique can be applied by incubating products at elevated temperatures. For faulty products that produce gas, this simple incubation technique can be used. Whole containers are incubated, so it is quite a sensitive test. So the system can be used for trending AKQ results from samples incubated at 22 degrees C or 21 degrees C for up to 7 days. The scoring system is as follows. A pot which blows at 1 day scores 64. A pot which blows at 2 days scores 32. Down to a pot which blows at 7 days scores 1. If a pot doesn't blow, it scores 0. The report calculates an average for the day's production by adding up the total of the blown sample scores and dividing this total by the number of samples incubated. Hence, the score is an average score by each filler for each day of the month. The results can be shown in a table or graph. The fillers represented by the pink and red lines here need to be investigated. This is how a 3D graph would look. And this is an annual AKQ summary. You can see there's a major issue with filler 3 in July. I'm going to talk about MTA, or microbiological trend analysis. This is a system for trending product quality by monitoring a 7-day average of product results. In this example, a pre-incubated test is used to detect low levels of contamination. The beauty of a pre-incubated test is that it detects low level of contamination in a whole pack as opposed to a plate count of 1 gram of product. In this case, we are looking at psychotrophic bacteria, but the same principle can be applied to other indicator organisms. Psychotrophic bacteria are bacteria that are capable of surviving or even thriving in a cold environment. They provide an estimation of the product's shelf life. The principle here can be applied to other bacteria, but usually to indicator organisms such as Enterobacteriaceae or coliforms. The test is highly sensitive as whole packs or an increased sample size is used, and so it is particularly useful if you do not find many positives when analysing 1 gram of product. The report calculates a rolling average for 7 days production, which is then presented as a graph. The chart shows predictive product quality performance. A rise in number of positives or fails on average in a 7-day period means that there is a deterioration which, when reaching a certain level, triggers action. This action could be an acid clean or filler deep clean or further investigation. Just going to move on to a few other areas where you can improve complaint and product quality performance. Experience has shown where product is reworked, product quality can deteriorate. You should ensure proper control of rework, and especially the chill chain. In any process, by natural selection, you are developing organisms that are resistant to your process, especially if you continually rework product. Periodically, you should take a complete break from reworking to remove survivors from your process. Another useful tool I use quite often is applying positive release system to your product. You can take control of product entering the market by releasing product based on confirmed compliance with analytical results. My final tip is, if your complaint levels are so poor and you're not sure what to do, you should go back to basics. And you should go through the whole process and do a complete risk analysis. That's it for this presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, that's brilliant, Tony. Thanks very much for that. Wow, I think that's the most interaction we've had with the audience. The typing in, it's created a lot of discussion. If you want to stop sharing your screen now, then we can deal with the Q&A. So if anybody has a question, I know I've marked a couple of questions as we've been going along. If anybody has a question, please do type it in the chat box now. As I was saying, there was a huge amount of content in your presentation there, Tony, and very good content as well. Lots of practical ideas. And so let's have a look what questions we have got. I thought I'd marked a couple. Well, James is saying great. I don't know if you can see the sidebar, Tony. Great information.
I just clicked on it, yeah. Yeah, no, good. I'm glad people enjoyed it. Thanks for your comments. Appreciate that.
Okay, Carlos is asking, which stat tool can be used to identify significantly different results and complaint levels? So Carlos is asking, do you recommend a stat tool of any sort?
No, I just use Excel. A simple Excel spreadsheet is sufficient.
Right. Okay. Black bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought people might ask about the black bag. One of the retailers a few years ago used to go around your factory picking up things off the floor and potential foreign body hazards. So they would have loved those, the pencil, the staples, you know, any bits and pieces, and also things on the floor which they identified as potential foreign body hazards.
Right. Several people have been asking the same question.
Yeah.
So basically, you just walk around with a black bag, filling it with all foreign bodies and things.
Yeah, picking where if you find something that looks like a foreign body on the side or near the filler or on the floor, pick it up. It must have come from somewhere. If you find a bolt on the floor, it's come off something.
It's a very powerful tool, that, actually. And then I suppose have a meeting of heads of department and just tip it out on the table.
Yeah, that has been done. It's not my preference to be so dramatic, but I've seen it done. Yeah.
Okay. So Vahini is saying, if a particular customer gets more damaged goods, product with respect to microbial or mold, how should it be treated? What can you do with where you're getting a lot of?
Well, you're going to dispose of that if it's damaged and it's caused it to get mold. But I think you need to look at how the product's being handled and how well it's protected, because you need to look at your packaging and how you're transporting product to that customer. I mean, some products are easily damaged, so they need more substantial secondary packaging to actually protect them.
Okay, great. Carlos again, in markets where complaining is not common practice, do you think companies should be more proactive and contact the consumer directly? Which methods could you recommend in these cases?
Well, I think it's you would use customer surveys, but if you don't get complaints very often, then I think your focus needs to be on ensuring that the tools I've mentioned is that your product quality is as good as you can get it, you know, and then there's less likely to be complaints. But yeah, I think by consumer surveys really, but I mean you're going to have to do a big survey to capture a customer that's had a complaint. I guess if you're getting 100 complaints per million units as a standard, let's say, or you would potentially get 100 complaints, you've got to interview 1,000 people to get one complaint.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean that you did make the point during the presentation that you could be supplying the same product to two different customers and one complains every day and the other one never complains. So you've got to be aware at a customer level that people react differently and have a different their own quality level expectation, but also wherever you're supplying in the world. If you're supplying internationally, some countries, the culture in those countries, some people complain more than others, don't they? So you've got to be aware of your customers, haven't you, really?
Yeah, I've just seen another one from Carlos, and he's saying auditing the product in the market. If you go back to the investigation that I did into the problems with the store with the 50% complaints and the chill chain, as a consequence of us finding issues with stores, we actually set up a project where we had customer service staff who would actually visit the stores and advise them on things like that, and do things like check the condition of product in stores, and make sure there wasn't damaged or unsatisfactory products on display.
That's a very good idea. And actually, you could even check competitors' products as well at the same time, I suppose.
Yeah, well, that's a different thing. You're obviously aware I did development work, and we used to do complete market analysis. So we used to go to the store and we used to buy everything in our category from the store, and we used to take them back and compare them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. James is asking, what should be the timeline between receiving and closing a complaint?
Yeah, this is an interesting one because if you're going to close a complaint out quickly, let's say within a few days, then you might not need to send an initial response to a customer. I think I'd say a week, but if it's some cases you need to get independent analysis on products, so it might be a case that you just want to keep the customer informed of the ongoing investigation rather than not communicating to them and they're thinking that you've forgotten about them.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you stress that communication's the key, isn't it? Because it could be testing or it could be related to a supplier that's caused the problem. So you've got to go down the chain, but just keep them in the loop, basically.
Yes.
And
with email,
sorry, go on.
Sorry, with email these days, it's sometimes quite easy to contact, and contact your customers. Sorry.
Another one from Carlos. When a complaint cannot be fully explained, i.e. no reason is found in the producer's side, and it requires a visit to the client where you find the problem is on their side, how do you consider such a complaint? Is it a no fault found? Is it a no complaint?
So the client I don't understand the question totally. If the client complained and you visit and you see that there's no issue, well, I think I think if I went somewhere and I've been somewhere, about 20 years ago, there was an issue with some skim milk powder that was being supplied in 20-ton lots to a big biscuit manufacturer, and they were claiming that there was excessive total counts in this powder, and we were finding it was clear. I actually went to the site, and they finally admitted they'd actually been using the wrong dilution on their TVC counts for this powder. So they'd been rejecting 20 tons of powder based on doing the wrong dilution in their lab. So, I mean, it's a bit difficult in that situation to be calm and be nice, but that's something you still have to do, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
With your customer head on.
Politely tell the customer that they're wrong.
Yes.
I just did see a good question from Tricia. Is it practical to seek to apply corrective action to individual low risk complaints as opposed to trends?
Yeah, I think it depends on how many. If you're getting only one or two individual low risk complaints a month, then that's what you're going to focus on. But if you're getting much more complaints on bigger issues, and of course you should be prioritizing the complaints you're more concerned about: foreign body choke hazards, suspected food poisoning, food safety over quality. You have to prioritize them, and you can only do that based on numbers. But trends, I mean, for low risk, trends, if you can demonstrate an improvement by analyzing trends, then that's fine.
Yeah, I think maybe what I'm second guessing what Tricia's saying, but maybe she's saying, there's a lot of paperwork involved with the complaint, like the form you showed us before, going through the whole process,
yes.
For a very, very minor complaint, if you get several of them, all right, they are significant because somebody's complained, the customer's complained, but do you have to go through that whole chain, that whole bureaucracy for every one of those minor complaints when it's more of a process issue? If it's a process issue.
Sure. As I said before, for me, it depends on the level of complaints you're getting, and what you need to do is prioritize on the main one. So if that means that the low risk complaints, you don't do a full investigation, but a comment is made on the form by somebody in authority, like the technical manager, I think that would be sufficient.
Okay, that's clear. Yeah, that's clear. Paul's asking, how would you deal with consumers complaining just to get a rebate or free products?
Well, I'd look at their complaint and decide for myself it's genuine. If it's the first time, I might compensate them. If they're repeat offenders without any evidence, then I probably would just politely say, we didn't find anything wrong with our product. Sorry about that.
Yeah, and I suppose you need to, that's one reason for keeping the data and analysing the data, to see repeat offenders who keep coming back.
Exactly, yeah. If you've got it in that something like an Excel spreadsheet, you can do a search with that, or sort. Yeah, unless they keep changing their name, or, you know.
Getting the grandmother and their auntie to complain and things like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, just one or two more, and then we're going to have to wrap it up, I think. Myrto is asking, how should we manage complaints related to the taste of the product, like personal choice, product too sweet, too much calories, etc.?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, and I've had many debates about this. But really, your sales and marketing department needs to be specifying what the product should be like, or what the consumers are looking for, and how the product should be, and maybe even giving you a benchmark to match or better.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a development. We're bordering on development there, and there needs to be input from the development department in that case.
Right. I think what we'll do there is, because we've just passed the hour mark, we'll stop there. If there are any further questions, we'll capture all of these comments and we'll share these anyway. And if there are any extra ones that we've missed, I'm sure you'll be happy to follow up on those, will you, Tony?
Sure.
Okay. Just to say then, I said something completely false before. I said there's no such thing as zero defects. But if this is a product, this webinar, I would guarantee that there are no customer complaints today, only satisfied customers. So there is such a thing as zero defects and 100% perfection, because this presentation has been absolutely fabulous. And I'm sure all the attendees will concur with that. So I'd like to say thanks to you, Tony, on behalf of myself, the IFSQN, and all of the attendees today. You've done a great job. So thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you. I hope people have found it useful.
They definitely will have done, Tony. So I'll speak to you soon, and hopefully we'll get you presenting again sometime in the near future.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Cheers, mate. Bye now. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you'll agree this has been a fantastic webinar, one of the very best that we've done out of the 24 this year. Like I say, it is being recorded as usual. You will receive an email, all registrants will receive an email with the video recording, the slides, and also Tony promised a completed template for the complaints form, and also for one of those GMP audits. So that package will be on its way to you in the next couple of days. Not bad for free. Is there anybody that wants to complain? If they do, send me an email, team@ifsqn.com, and we'll deal with it in the appropriate manner. All there is to say is that your certificate should be in the sidebar. You should be able to download that. It's Friday. It's the best day of the week. It's almost weekend. It's Food Safety Friday. Enjoy yourselves, and we'll see you again next Friday for Food Safety Fridays. Take care. Bye.